TikTok will try to force teens to meditate after 10 p.m. X is once again selling checkmarks to groups that have been sanctioned in the U.S. And doctors successfully treated a baby with the first ever personalized gene editing therapy. It's Friday, May 16th, and here's a quick look at tech in the news this morning from Engadget. TikTok recently began experimenting with an in-app meditation feature that encouraged teens to wind down after 10 p.m. Now the company is making the feature official for all users and turning it on by default for all teens under the age of 18. With the change, teens will hit a full-screen guided meditation exercise when attempting to scroll after 10 p.m. The prompt is apparently something you can opt to ignore, but teens who do will encounter a second, harder-to-dismiss prompt. TikTok's adult users will also be able to access the in-app meditations via the app's screen time controls. The feature will not be on by default for adults, though. The company notes that its initial tests of sleep hours were successful, with 98% of teens opting to keep the late-night meditation settings on. Previous attempts by TikTok to limit screen time have a somewhat different track record. Documents that surfaced as part of a lawsuit against the company showed that teens were spending about 107 minutes a day in the app, even when screen time was set to a 60-minute limit. Since then, TikTok has beefed up some of its safety features, including its parental controls, amid increasing scrutiny of the company. TikTok's fate in the U.S. is still officially in limbo, as President Donald Trump signed off on another extension of a deadline to ban the app last month. Terms of a final deal that will allow it to remain in the country permanently have yet to be announced, though there are a number of interested buyers. X has once again been accepting payments from people associated with terrorist groups and other entities subject to U.S. sanctions. That's according to a new report from the Tech Transparency Project. According to that report, X has not only accepted payments in exchange for its premium service, but in some cases has provided an ID-verified badge. The report once again questions whether X is complying with U.S. sanctions that restrict companies' ability to do business with individuals and entities that have been deemed a security threat. Last year, the TTP published a similar report that identified more than 24 verified accounts that were affiliated with sanctioned groups, including leaders of Hezbollah and accounts associated with Houthis in Yemen. Many of those checkmarks were subsequently revoked, with X promising to maintain a safe, secure, and compliant platform. But some of those accounts simply resubscribed to X's premium service or created fresh accounts. The report once again highlights verified accounts associated with members of Hezbollah, including one of its founders, as well as Houthi officials who are making heavy use of X for messaging and propaganda. The son of Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi, whose account was previously suspended, also currently has a blue check, as does Saddam Hussein's daughter. Both have been under sanctions for more than a decade. X did not respond to a request for comment on the report. In response to last year's report, the company said it would take action if necessary. However, it's unclear if the company changed any of its practices regarding who can pay for premium subscriptions. Michelle Cuppersmith, the executive director for Campaign for Accountability, the watchdog group that runs TTP, said, "If a small team can use X's public-facing search tools to identify these accounts, it's unclear why a multi-billion-dollar company cannot do the same. It's one thing to allow terrorists to have a voice on the platform. It's another entirely to allow them to pay for a more effective megaphone." A team of doctors and scientists have successfully treated a rare genetic condition with the first-ever personalized gene editing therapy. Results of the groundbreaking treatment have been published in the New England Journal of Medicine, with an accompanying editorial by a doctor who had previously overseen the FDA's gene therapy regulation efforts. The patient in this historic case was KJ, an infant born with CPS1 deficiency, which has about a 50% mortality rate within the first week. Patients that do survive can experience severe brain disease, mental and developmental delays, and potential liver transplants. His care team developed a personalized gene editing treatment based on CRISPR, a technology for modifying human DNA. The successful gene repair for KJ combined years' worth of previous federally funded medical research, including the discovery of CRISPR and human genome sequencing that allowed the mutation to be identified. Now, this approach to gene editing could potentially be used in the future to aid patients with other genetic disorders, such as sickle cell disease, cystic fibrosis, Huntington's disease, and muscular dystrophy. A pair of CRISPR-based drugs have already received FDA approval for sickle cell disease treatments, but there is still a lot to potentially be explored in this field. Thanks for listening. There's more to these stories and more tech news at Engadget.com. This episode featured journalism from Carissa Bell and Anna Washenko and was voiced and produced from the sound studios of Spoken Layer by me, Steve White. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll be back on Monday with more tech news from Engadget.